On this episode, cutting the burnout, sunset,
I messed up.
mistakes.
Last night while I lay sleeping, I had a dream so fair. I dreamed I owned an auto car and took it everywhere. I heard the engine throbbing, and even as it throbbed, someone yelled, "It's a 19.2," and I knew that I was jobbed. And when I went to pay the bill, I found out I was robbed. Then it tore through the door of the great big grocery store. They called it a 6, but I called it more. I landed on my bugle, boys, the grocery was large. He said, "Dear sir, there's some mistake and this is no garage." He punctured that old tire with his left foot free of charge. Then I got started for Georgia. Well, away down south in the land of cotton, I started off in the chain forgotten I did.
So what you're looking at here is a 1994 Mercury Cougar. I acquired this car for $500 US. And believe it or not, it has a completely rebuilt engine and transmission and approximately has 20,000 miles on both of those. The chassis itself only has 80,000 miles. And you might be asking yourself, like, how is that even possible? Long story short, the owner, he acquired this from a previous relationship, and unfortunately it didn't work out, and he soon learned that the car was treated extremely poorly and had never had an oil change, so the engine inevitably failed. But this person just so happened to be a machinist of 20 years, so he decided to rebuild the engine, all new accessories, power steering rack, and absolutely everything has been redone, brakes, tires, etc. And unfortunately he drove it about 5,000 more miles and the transmission went out, and so he went and got the transmission rebuilt from a good friend of his who owns a shop. All this total paperwork amounted to about $6,000 worth of parts and labor, and after about 20,000 miles of ownership with all these rebuilt components, he was involved in a small front-end collision and just decided that this car was cursed. It so happens that I knew this person. They knew I was willing to pay $500 for it, and I picked it up not knowing what I wanted to do with it because it's quite frankly ugly to me and I just don't really care, but the drivetrain is so great that I was trying to think of what I could do with it. After some time on YouTube and witnessing other YouTubers do budget body swaps, I thought this was a perfect opportunity for me to attempt one. I also thought it was a great time to kind of expand on my fabrication skills, and that's exactly what we did. Something I found out very quickly is it seemed like I could not cut enough off of the donor car and spent a lot of time cutting, but once we at least got it cut up to a bare chassis, we had to do a burnout, of course. After a couple weeks of searching on Facebook Marketplace, I couldn't get any luck. I kept seeing projects that were in the $2,000 to $3,000 range, including this 1959 Studebaker Lark. Out of nowhere, the price dropped to $1,000 on this one. It was still more than I really wanted to pay for a shell, but it did have a clean title. So I messaged the guy, tried to negotiate a price. After we talked for a while, I believe it was about a week, We agreed on $420 cash plus an Bauer brand impact drill, battery, and charger. So I packed up, went 2 hours away from where I live, and went and got this car. The best part about this whole project to me was the fact that I found 2 black coupes with red interiors. The Studebaker also has a very similar wheelbase that's only 3 inches off, and the width was fairly close. The front end was going to be a bit difficult just for the fact that I would have to shorten it so much due to the fact that the Studebaker was much shorter in general. All that mattered though was that it was going to work, or at least I was going to make it work no matter what it took. At this point, I only had about $1,000 into this entire project with the 2 main components already there. I had a good running chassis, and I had a pretty cool old body that was straight, had a title, had all of the glass still in it and still in good shape, and I was on track to make a really cool budget daily driver in my mind. I had a goal to try and complete this entire project in 1 weekend, and luckily I had some help. Turns out all we were able to do in 1 weekend was just cut the 2 cars apart. And that was not even enough cutting whatsoever. I think I spent another day by myself just trimming, fitting, trimming again, just to get the body over the chassis. So if you're planning on doing this project, it's gonna take a very long time. I can imagine that I chose something a little bit more difficult as far as dimensions go, but in general, if you are ever trying to do a project like this, just account 100 times more hours than you think you would actually put into it, because I think that's where I'm at. Another mistake that I made was not doing nearly enough research on how other people have done this. It would also be really important to have a lot of people to help you out, especially when putting the body over. It would have also helped to have a lot of jack stands, just because lining it up was such a pain. And I used straps attached to the lift to try to make it easier to lower and adjust, which was just a terrible idea. The thing I did search is how people were adjusting for the difference in wheelbase, and almost everyone that I saw was just cutting out the fenders and then moving them back however many inches that you need to go back. And a big mistake I made here was not taping a straight cut line, because later on I'm gonna have to fix that and it just becomes a nightmare. But like I said, this is my first major fabrication project and I've learned a lot. Using square tubing at this time made a lot of sense to me, and is definitely going to add a lot of structural integrity to the project. To me, the way I see it is, I mean, the 1959 Studebaker was definitely not a safe car to begin with, so me kind of swapping all this stuff on here and adding some supports and everything will definitely be safer than driving a 1959 Studebaker, especially considering the fact I'm going to have seat belts and everything else. I do want to do another one of these projects eventually, though.
I messed up. I measured everything perfectly, so everything's super level. Unfortunately, the body of the Studebaker is not level. So pretty much my issue here is, even though my bars are flat and level with the ground, the Studebaker is sitting like this. So my solution is going to be cutting all my welds off, which really sucks. But you got to man up to your mistakes sometimes. And we're gonna go from this to this, so that then the Studebaker's front end gets brought down and then it'll be sitting perfectly on this bar that I'm welding in. Just sucks, but you know, mistakes happen. You can just sit there, cry, or go to town and start cutting, and that's what we're gonna do.
is real.
I am almost certain that this is gonna be the last time we're gonna go up and down on the lift with the body on it. And then from there, my life is gonna become way better and more fun, and it's still gonna be a lot of cutting and grinding, but you know, it is what it is.
The paranormal is real. It is real. The paranormal is real. Is it? The paranormal is real. It is real. The paranormal is real.